العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنما الحياة الدنيا لعب وله صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah, welcome the viewers today to our weekly podcast. As usual, we have our panel. On my left, we've got Mullah Hafiz Uzair Saab, and then next to him we have Mullah Adnan Saab, who's recently become the Khatib at Stockport Jamia Masjid. But unfortunately, we do not have our dog today. He's not here today. It's
going to be a bit quiet.
Is he bimar? Is he bimar?
No. He's busy in other activities, as I know, because he has lots of other initiatives that he takes part in.
So yeah.
I mean, he's active in and around Manchester. Those that recognise his voice know very well where he remains, and he has an influence in almost every masjid.
Yeah.
And because of the sheer experience he has of working with the community, with the youth.
Not just Manchester, I think beyond Manchester, like pretty much full UK, I think so.
I don't think there's a single alim in the UK that he doesn't have the number for.
Yeah.
He's linked with every peer, every alim, anybody that lands in the UK, you'll find the number.
Yeah, he's
well-connected guy. But that's because of the activities he's doing. He's constantly studying, constantly learning, sits at the feet of
ulama.
all the ulama. Regardless, there's no... he's not biased in any way to any of the ulama, and he wants to work with every organisation within his capacity.
I'd like to add one thing. You can see Mullah Adnan Saab. He's also a professional coach as well. Like the topic is football and Islam. So Mullah Adnan Saab, me and him before COVID, we were working together at the Quba Masjid. We were doing football together. Adnan was the coach. I was just bringing in the students. He's got, am I correct? You've got a FA
coaching badge.
Coaching badge, mashallah. So he's got a lot of experience in football, and so we'd like to start from here. Acha. First question to Mullah Adnan Saab.
Ji.
Okay, I think you were mentioning in the car to Uzair. Where did this idea come from? Football and Islam.
For today's topic or in general?
This topic, football and Islam. Where did it come from?
I think because the... Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum to all the viewers. I think because the previous weeks we have touched upon the youth upbringing, children. Today, mashallah, Hafiz Umair Sahib, a new initiative in their Juma Bayan, which they've introduced, is autism, mental health in children, young children in particular. And the Bayan was constructed in a way to help the viewers, the audience, those that come to the masjid that Qibla Hafiz Umair Sahib is an Imam and a Khatib. So it was to help them introducing, because these type of topics, they're not spoken upon on much, are they? It's the usual rehearsed bayans, the usual, raising of the voice and the same waqiyat and the same hayat and whatnot. This was something very different. And again, it was to engage the youth, the parents, the upbringing. I believe Hafiz Uzair Sahib is also speaking around the same topic, the rights of parents, the rights of children, how parents should treat their children, how the children should treat their parents, and vice versa. So an idea that came from there was how can we further engage the youth by something that they enjoy doing. And as you mentioned, we did the coaching. That was one success, and then obviously COVID kicked in, and that kind of did ruin our plans.
I'll just like to tell the viewers that we once did you remember, we did a football tournament and we had over 40 students, and the final game was such an epic game. Like those kids were playing like a proper football, and they're just
very
on
intense.
it. Like,
very intense.
Very intense.
No, it was very intense.
It's good stuff.
So as I was saying, after the football coaching, we started a activity/workshop again for the youth. This involved many masajid, and was it once a week?
Yeah.
Once a week we were conducting this. We would have workshops, bayan, activities, question and answer. We'd have games at the end. So it's very engaging. And sports, when it comes to youth, I think is at the forefront. It's at the pinnacle. And if you break sports down, I think the best way to get youngsters to come closer to the masajid, to the deen, to teach them about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the best way is to allow them to enjoy, allow them to do what they enjoy, and then from there you bring these initiatives and you incorporate Islam into their hearts and into their minds. And I think football was one of the best ways. Do you have some?
No, but for the podcast, the question in podcast, how did it come for a podcast? A topic should be football.
I think because we've not formally discussed it, it's just been between us and the masajid, and we've targeted a very limited audience, you would say, mainly to Manchester and masajid of Ahlus Sunnah, for example. This is more to get people captivated digitally as well as physically. So I think by doing it on the podcast, there are going to be youngsters watching. Inshallah, I'm going to share this message to the youngsters in my family, my cousins and relatives, and inshallah we can benefit a bigger audience by speaking about this.
Interesting. I mean, what I had in mind was, different initiatives that masajid should take in engaging the youth and bring them in towards Islam and towards the masajid. The masajid are community centers. They're hubs for the entire community to come together. When particularly speaking of the youth, let's put football to a side. Yes, it's one of the most attractive manners in which we can bring the youth in. What other ways can we use in order to engage the youth? Look, respectively, you're also a khatib in a masjid. Hafiz Saab is, myself also on board.
MashaAllah.
I mean, between ourselves, if you're just discussing it as casually as we can be, which other ways can we engage the youth? I mean, yes, we have football. Are there any other ways?
Again,
we have this platform we use. This is another form, of course. The whole reason we do a podcast and on this equipment, expensive equipment we bought together, is because so that the youth we know is on social media. They're not into reading books. They rather watch something on a screen than to pick up a book. And Islam will be more entertaining for them in a manner where they get to see their local Imams relaxed and just having a chat between themselves. So that was one of the initiatives that was thought of many months back, put into place, bang, we're on it. We're doing it every week. What else can we do for the youth? How else can we get them in?
I think it's like building awareness. I mentioned this at Jummah that what the reasons for bad parenting? What are the reasons? The many reasons the scholars have given, and one of them is that parents do not know, do not inform their children of the pits of life. The pits of life are not taught to the children, and to engage the children, parents firstly should be able to tell their children what is right, what is wrong, and then the social life around them, what's happening outside, they should be informed.
So before we try to engage them in something, what you're trying to say, Hafiz Saib, is, to be more clear, is the parents should also play a critical role in introducing that dawat at home. Because that's where we find it difficult to engage them, and we lose them quicker. And we had that with the football as well, didn't we?
Yeah. I think I was this call I read somewhere. You should love your children till the age of 7 as a small child. Love them to bits. Then after that, from the age of 7 to the age of 14, be strict with them. Show strictness. To in that age, they should be given strictness. Then after that, from 14 till 18, be a friend with them. This is for parenting. For parents, that they should do it like that. Now, in regards to what you're saying, engaging, I would request the parents to be engaged in the masajid. The parents should be engaged with the masajid, and they should engage with the Imams that, this is the kind of activities we should have for the children. Because you look, the Imams, okay, they're not very, how would I say...
not all are very creative.
Yeah, that's the right word. Very creative.
Not just creative. They're not really too much part of the community, are they?
Yeah.
Neither do they know the day-to-day problems and scenarios that are going across. within the community. They are, except for those people that approach them.
Yeah.
And generally at times we have seen that Imams are approached when there's no more solutions left. When things have already fallen apart, there's entire catastrophe at home, everything's blown apart.
That's
now they come to the Imam. Imam Sahib saw something out.
Sarai Imam they said it tougher.
Imam. And Imam said, like, what can I do? I mean, how much can I do right now?
Yeah.
But in terms of what you're mentioning regarding the parents do, of course, play the most vital role, critical role in a child's life.
Gee.
Parents should start to realize that masajid are also a means of their child's upbringing.
Not just the school and the clubs.
Not just the school and the clubs. If the parent is sending his child, his son or his daughter to an after-school club, he should also know that the masajid do also provide these facilities.
Yeah.
But masajid will only provide those facilities when there's a demand.
Of course.
See, when there's a demand every month by these babajis that we need to have a gyarvi. Gyarvi will start.
Gee.
There's a demand by the community that every week there has to be a circle of dhikr on a Thursday. Imam Sahib will cater for that.
2 Jummahs.
Imam Sahib will cater for it. But when the parents complain, look, why should we bring that? There's nothing happening in the masjids for my child to come into the masjid. My question I ask back, where is the demand for those activities to take place in masajid?
Gee.
And when masajid have conducted such activities, the attendance is so poor and off-putting, Imam Sahib doesn't want to commit those many hours of his efforts.
It's an embarrassment for him.
It's an embarrassment for him and his time.
It comes back to what I said, that the parents should be more involved in the masajid.
They need to play a more active role.
For example, bare minimum is to come to the namaz, to the masjid. The bare minimum, and with their children. Come to the masjid with your children. It's the bare minimum that they can do. Beyond that, become a committee member or voluntarily helping the masjid. That's subhanallah. Okay, noor ala noor. Okay, jinnah gud ona mitha. But they should, at least parents should be involved in the masajid.
Okay, let's suppose we're beyond that stage now. Masajid are now becoming more populated with parents coming in, and parents are engaging and they're on board. After that, what can the masjid provide? What type of activities can be done in a masjid and outside the masjid?
Okay, now,
what can be catered by the masjid?
Okay, there is a problem there. One is the size of the masajid is an issue as well, especially in the UK. The way the masajid are made. The masajid majority of them are what? They're already offices, already, just
some house or something, yeah.
Bank.
Bank, yeah. So then they have to look at the area of the masjid, and then according to that, they can only provide.
But these activities don't have to be in the masjid. It's going to be supervised by the imams, by the committees, or those that are regular namazis, for example.
Yeah, agreed. Yep.
So I think what Hafiz Saab is trying to get to is that we used to do this in our football coaching sessions as well. I would have sessions prepared. You would have something in mind, and if Waqar Bhai is watching, he would have something in mind as well. But we would want the players, the youth, to choose sessions which they prefer to do. So I think we don't leave it all to them. We of course take charge and we supervise and we conduct the affairs. But we do ask them, what do they want to do? Because Hafiz Saab, not everyone's a brilliant footballer. Not everyone's going to play football. Not everyone's going to appreciate the PlayStation and the FIFA games after the workshops that we were doing once a month. There's people that want table tennis. There's snooker. There's pool. There's the other arcade games. There's the table games. There's board games, and there's bike riding. There's walking. There's hiking. There's so much. Yani,
But do they have to be?
Football is great, but
do they have
people
to be
want to do
sport?
other stuff as well.
Do they have to be just sport? I think I was saying.
I think that's one of the most. This is what I touched on
This
earlier.
is what I'm trying to say.
Are there any other ways other than
do they
sport?
have to be just sport, or can it
But
be more?
sport is
But
the most.
hiking and walking and mountain climbing, that's not exactly sports, is it? That's just an activity. It's a physical activity. It's just to get yourself going, and that's something that people really enjoy as well.
So I think what the masajid could also do is help children with their GCSEs. Okay, have GCSE classes in the evening. So get the Muslim maths English teachers. Okay, get them on board. Where we have our Salama Razaka, okay, the Yassar al-Quran, okay, sorry, Yassar al-Quran, okay, right, the actual pronunciation, okay, right, but we should have maths and English classes as well, okay, right, yeah, and we should have teachers, Muslim teachers, who should help the youth with their maths and English. For example, there is a school, right, who's a head teacher in Manchester, who head teacher is a Muslim. Now what happened is that head teacher was a Muslim. He then got a, this is in Leamington where the Kuba Masjid is, just next to it. He hired out I think it was a sports hall. And in that, all of those Muslim students that needed help with their GCSEs, he sent them there. So that room, I've seen people who go there. They go, that room is packed with students.
Achha, yeah. Look, that's only for GCSE students.
Yeah.
Those students are year 10, year 11. What we're trying to get is hold of those students that are year 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, you can help them with maths as well.
They are the ones that need the most support.
Yeah.
That's the most critical age.
Yeah.
Between 9 and 13, 14. When they're starting to develop, hormones are kicking in, they become more aware of their environment, the society, they start to take decisions on their own. That's when we really need them in. Health is definitely one of the a valid point. Support students. Massages should also cater for maths, English tuition, where parents are sending them throughout or around Manchester for these additional studies. Massages should cater for that as well.
What that does is, if I can just mention, sorry to interrupt, is you've got the classes for Quran, for Tajweed, for Hifz, which is great. But sometimes I feel, and if I was in a madrasa, if I was teaching in that way, I would feel as though my relationship with the student, with the child, or with the parent is very, very limited to the traditional Desi style teaching, and that's it.
Yeah.
Matlab, Ustad ko daro te, don't speak when he's talking, and so many other things. You know better than me, Afsar. You've been teaching for so many years. But by having this other relationship, apart from the Quranic classes, obviously the ultimate goal is the deen, Allah and His Rasul. But having a different type of relationship and doing those, again, coming back to those activities which they enjoy, it builds that trust and it builds a better relationship between yourself and the child. And that's when you can really grab them.
I mean, what we're really saying is facilitate as many opportunities as possible
within the means, of course. Yeah.
Within the masjid for that youth to come in. See, once he just comes to let's suppose Quran classes, then they introduce that this masjid of yours is also doing maths and English classes. Come here for your maths and English tuition. Then start coming in. Then they realize, they also do footballs on Fridays as well. So okay, they start coming in.
See, for the viewers, we're saying all of this not just by coincidence. We've actually done all of this. When you mentioned the Quran, then they do football as well. Social is a good example with our guest who's not here. So these are things that we've actually done.
We had one student in Kuba who was our student for football as well. He would come masjid as well. He get masjid. Then on a Saturday he would come football. Okay, I met his mum a few weeks ago at Darul Masjid. Okay, and she says that he says the best teacher that he's ever had is me. Okay, and she goes that the reason being is that we do football. She goes that I try to speak against you in front of him, and he starts crying and he fights with me. He actually starts crying and he fights with me that don't speak bad about my ustadi. This is the benefit of football and the Quran. Put the Quran and Pak together. I experienced myself.
Yeah, so I mean, it's giving that child another reason to love his teacher, isn't it?
Bilkul.
Yeah, not because it's just one Hafiz Umar in the whole world that deserves love.
There is only one Hafiz Umar in the world.
There's only one?
There is only one.
Okay, there is only one. Okay, definitely this one, there's only one of him.
Lakhon mein
ek. But a child needs more opportunities to bond and connect with his teacher.
Yeah.
And if you allow that relationship to build in an environment where that child feels at ease, the child feels like this is my turf, my home turf.
Yeah.
I can be open with my teacher. Then that relationship is what he remembers for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Because like you mentioned earlier, the traditional understanding or the common approach is that you go to a masjid, you sit silently, and then you only read when it's time to read, and after that go home and over. That's generally what's happening in masajid. Many is still doing only that. But if masajid were to go a step beyond, and many a times masajid are not taking the extra leap because they don't have that voluntary support from the community.
See, that traditional way is still good, and I
It's
still
good, of course.
stick by that because we ourselves are very traditional people. Our families
And it teaches you
how-
adab, it teaches you your foundation, your grounding.
If it wasn't for tradition, we wouldn't be looking the way we're looking today because it has taught us so much. We're always talking about tarbiyat and qibla ustad and whatnot, but this brings a different type of relationship, and it doesn't restrict the child. And the way you said the ages from 9 to 14, it allows you to grab them. It really does. So I completely agree with you there.
Yeah, allows you to grab them. Then what we are mentioning again and again, let's say the Imam Sahib does want to go the extra mile.
Gee.
He requires a voluntary support from the community. If you're saying, now what we are describing here, the maths, English, the football, and the pool, and the socials, all of this is only possible when volunteers from the community step forward, grab the Imam Sahib, say, Imam Sahib, let's go for it, let's do it. Imam Sahib knows it's not just a one-man mission. I've got to arrange the food, I've got to arrange the PS5s and the plasma screens,
Like for
LCD
example,
screens,
in Kubab,
everything. It's not going to happen by one person.
in Kubab, when we started the social, the youth one, where we had the screen and then the PS4s, I remember we had at least 7 to 8 voluntary workers. We had Shah Sahib, we had Rashid, we had Waqar Bhai, we had Adnan, you, myself, Fahim. We had
You had a full team. It's a team effort.
Yeah.
Not a one-man thing. And throughout we don't just speak for Manchester. Manchester is because we can relate to these masajid because we've been in and out of them. We know the management. But an analogy based upon Manchester is that throughout the country is probably the same thing, where masajid want to do things, but they're just that the support is not there.
Yeah.
And where parents actively feel like something should take place, then allow yourself to, present yourself to the masajid. So look, I'm here, this is what I want to do. Bring your other families and friends, engage other people from the community coming to the masjid.
Yeah.
The more time you spend in the masjid, you open up with the committee members, the community members. It opens many more avenues for you to support the next generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and believe me, if we lose this generation, we've lost it all.
Yeah.
What have we got really?
Because
these same people are the ones that grow up to move to college, and they still have that relationship with the Imam Sahib because of that football, because of that social they had.
Definitely.
They'll go to uni, whenever they've got an issue with the halal, haram, they'll pick up the phone, Imam Sahib, is this halal or haram? Imam Sahib can support him. If that child is never, I remember listening to Mufti Qasim Sahib, the Mufti Qasim, and he was saying, of the Islami, he was saying, every person in the community should have the number of their local Imam Sahib in his phone. If you don't have the number of the local Imam Sahib in your phone, then you're up to haram and you're not even aware of it. Because remember, Islam is not just a tick box on an application form. Islam is a way of life. From the moment you wake up till the moment you sleep, within those 16 hours, Quran and Sunnah have covered everything that you need. Halal and haram. The hadith says in Sahih Bukhari, Al-halalu bayyinun wal-haramu bayyinun. Halal has been made clear, haram has been made clear. It's for us to not approach our local imams and know whether any activity that you want to take on is allowed or not.
And look, the Quran says, I mentioned this in Jummah today, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, Surah Al-Anfal, La takhunu Allah wa Rasul wa takhunu amanatikum. That don't betray Allah and His Rasul, and don't betray those trusts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. So our children or our imams or our parents, they are actual trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we're questionable, including ourselves. We're questionable that imam who's in a masjid and whose his community is not doing good, there's haram going on, he's gonna be questioned. Your community was doing this, what do you do? And then vice versa, that those parents that were not involved with the Imam Sahib, they'll be questioned. That your Imam was there, were you involved or not?
Look, Imams, a role of, what's the role of an Imam? Let's describe that first. The role of the Imam is to facilitate all the community's needs.
Yeah.
Whether it be for children, teenagers, elders, grown-ups of all ages. He's employed, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's getting paid. That's his full-time role to make this masjid into a success, to facilitate for the entire community of all ages. If that means children at the age of 5, then he is employed to do that. If it's all the way up to the elders, he's employed to do that. Yeah. But Imam Sahib, that does not mean Imam Sahib is employed, but at the same time, he's got to take on every responsibility of the entire community. Yeah. He needs support. Just like, for example, you work in an office, don't you? And in the office environment, you have certain other offices and other departments that are supporting, administrating, and that are actively involved in making your office a success, isn't it?
Definitely.
Here what happens is Imam Sahib's employed, and I have a meeting with another Imam Sahib after this podcast, and he's just recently come into Manchester. I'm not saying this is going to be the case with him, but a standard scenario would be Imam Sahib's been employed for, let's suppose, Birmingham. Oh, mashallah, big boy Imam Sahib coming in. Imam Sahib comes in, Imam Sahib sat in the masjid. No one's there. He wants to do activities, no volunteers to support him. So you expect him to cook, you expect him to clean, you expect him to organize, get the posters made, call the community in, do the activity, and when everyone's gone, he cleans up as well and does everything. Imam Sahib's not going to do that. I mean, how many roles does an Imam need to play? He's there to facilitate, give his Islamic input, and engage and incite people's emotions and jazbat. Look, this is what the community needs to be doing. But then I believe the responsibility falls on the community to respond now. And their response will be in the form of financially supporting him in building these activities and putting all of these things into place.
Well, let's move forward, okay, in regards to activities.
One thing I'd like to mention, is Hafiz Saab mentioned a very good point there, is, look, we keep mentioning communities, people need to get involved, volunteers need to get involved, Imam Saab's on his own. But what's the solution? I think one good solution is, we've got social media, make a page, put these messages on there. If the community doesn't have the message, the phone number of the Imam Saab, chalo Imam Saab nu thodi ji sharam aa jani, he's going to come forward ki yaar mera tu number hi le le. He's going to give his number to the namazis. They're going to take it. He'll send a message. He can create a group, because I've done these things in the past with football coaching and with youth and solid ground, with the likes of Majid, if he's listening, and this has worked. But I think one way, and Mufti Tahir mentioned this as well a couple of years back, is Jummah is your greatest platform for this. Yeah. How did we start football? How did we start the workshops? How did we start the activities in the PlayStation, Avasab? You introduced it in Jummah. I came forward, yourself. We mentioned it in Jummah. There's so many people. Now there's 2 Jummahs and both Jummahs are full. And instantly you're attracting people. And then there's a leaflet, there's a message, the phone number at the end, and we're handing those to people. If they're not making the effort, we'll make the effort. And inshallah, there will be barakat. We've done it before, it's happened, and inshallah happen again. And those masajid that are not, they can take away from this and inshallah incorporate in their
in regards to engaging the youth. Now, with COVID is coming, pandemic, it's changed our way of engaging with people. Completely changed it. Like, for example, the 3 like half the learning is online. Now, this is a factor as well that which the masajid, the imams and the community need to think of. Okay, the future role. Now, PlayStation and gaming, this is just temporarily. Future, we need to think about future.
The ultimate goal is obviously greater, but these are little increments.
5 years down the line, where do we see ourselves? Where does the community see ourselves? And as a community, we do not think about this. 5 years down the line, where do we see ourselves? Are we just going to be doing the same thing again and again, or do we want to progress? This is to engage. We need to be able to plan. People need to plan.
I mean, like we hinted on slightly, if I would just add to that, we said active volunteering members of the community to come forward. That builds a think tank.
Yeah.
Once that think tank is in place, these people, let's suppose, sit on a monthly basis, and they think of what the future holds. Yeah. What are the needs of our community? Which sectors of our community need more attention than others? How can we facilitate for them? A masjid has to have that active group. Yeah,
The
you know,
imam
like
needs
you
that.
have a working group.
Yeah.
A working group for each masjid, where you have people from different backgrounds.
The imam is getting that professional support from
Exactly,
the professional backgrounds.
exactly.
Yeah.
So people from different walks of life, maybe in supporting, in policing, whether it's from a community point of view, whatever background they are from, and whatever their expertise or their experiences may be, for that all to come forward to the Imam Sahib. Yeah, I mean the reason why I keep mentioning Imam Sahib is Imam Sahib is employed to make that masjid a success, where the volunteers are not. And the reason why you keep putting Imam Sahib in there is so that Imam Sahib also learns. He's developing, isn't he? Imam Sahib isn't born as a born leader. Yeah? He doesn't have all the skills, all the tools. He needs support. Once the support is there, Imam Sahib will feel enriched himself. That, look, my community respects me, my community engages with me, and they give me all that support. He'll enjoy being in that masjid. Yeah, many times the Imam is not able to flourish, he's not coming out in his best form, because the Imam doesn't, the community doesn't respond to him. So Imam Sahib's not interested. He's like, Khasmanu khao. Basically, do what you want. Main panch namazah padhati hain, I've done my bit, I'm getting employed, my payroll, job done. But push your Imam to do more. Yeah?
Yeah.
And I'm sure if somebody's listening and if you refer to your local Imam, that's probably the scenario. Yeah. Imam Sahib's not being pushed to do those things. He's relaxed as well. Theek hai. If that's what they want, then theek hai, chal rahe kam. Let it carry on going this way. That's what I feel, at least.
But traditionally, that's what's been happening for how many years?
Well, since we've grown in this country, let's speak for our ages, at least for the last 20 years.
From Jummah to Namaz to Nazra to the classes.
And that's it.
It's just been that continuous.
I think it's more to that. Look, the Imam.
Now, if you look at, for example, allow me just 1 minute. If you look at the other masjids that are doing really well, that have all of these activities, they've been here for the last 20 years, haven't they? If we're complaining our masajids are not doing much and haven't been since I've seen in my age at least, in my conscious life, the other side, the other masajid that are flourishing have been flourishing since then, haven't they? And they continue to, and they have a huge reputation for doing mass community work and youth work. That is because they have those active groups, active members in their community that are engaging, that want to do more. Here we have a community that's asleep.
See, there's two things. First of all, that Imam that you've mentioned is either professionally aware. He is a professional himself. Mentioning no names, but previously we've been introduced to some ulama that are barristers, lawyers, and you see that educational impact that they give you, and that automatically brings people in. This Imam Sahib Bachara that we're talking about, there's no creativity, there's no exposure, so he needs that help. So it's possible that those masajid and imams that we're talking about, their imam was exposed and he brought people forward, or people came to him and he didn't have that exposure and professionals came to him. In this case, what we're talking about is we need that community support.
What I was trying to say, Imam is there. His duty, if you look at it, is just the 5 namaz and the kids.
Why?
His main duty is this. Main.
That's what the committee have given him.
Okay.
But
beyond
it's a dead committee then, isn't it?
All
they're expecting from this employment is
beyond that.
But now we're opening a kind of
beyond that, what I'm trying to say is that the committee, the volunteer should help the imam do extra activities. For example, the masajid should have a shop in the masjid. The masajid should have Islamic shop in the masjid, okay? Where they have...
But not every masjid because of the size.
Yeah. No, but... Not size, but at least they can rent out another place. Okay? There's this masjid just south Manchester where they bought 6 houses. 6 houses they bought and then they rented them out. So if the masajid think about that, we can't do these activities because of money-wise. This is another factor as well. Masajid say we can't do this because of money.
Funding, yeah, financing.
Funding. This is one major issue. Okay.
I don't think so. Not now. I mean, even those these volunteers that we were talking of. If 5-6 families that are volunteering get involved, each family deposits £20 per month, let's suppose.
Yeah.
That's £100. £100 is more than enough to cater for a bit of food for 30-40 children, isn't it?
Yeah. Brother Asif just commented, he's got a very, very good point. Another issue is our Imams are foreigners. They don't speak.
That's not the case anymore.
Well,
we could say that. I respect his opinion. I take that on board. That was the case 20 years ago, not now. Majority of the Imams in and around Manchester, at least. We speak for Manchester at least because we know them.
I know most of whether the Urdu speaker, even today.
There is obviously an odd. But majority have English-speaking Imams that can relate to the community. That are born bred here now.
Improvement, so
There's
much.
been huge improvement. Now it's the role of the community. Now look, this is one point's come to mind. As we mentioned before as well. In the past, we used to say there's no Imam to facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
Now when the Imam's here, no one's there to respond. So basically what the community was doing was using Imam as a tool, and blaming him. They were playing the blame game. Keep blaming Imam. Now when you have an adequate, well-educated Imam in, now the community is being exposed because now the community is not coming out. Let's suppose this Imam was there 20 years ago. Believe me, they wouldn't be saying this right now.
Our masjid's door was banged for the last couple of years. English bayan karo. Now we have so many English speakers in our group that we're sometimes finding it hard that where should we send which Imam, which Khatib. That's the potential we have.
Look,
and we've provided that.
That's correct as well. What you're saying is correct as well. The issue is the mindset of the community. Brother Asif, you just done another comment, which is a very good
Asif's
point.
on fire today.
He's on fire. I'll follow him after this. Basically, the mindset of the community is what make the masjid big. Masjid बढ़ रही क्यों बंदे more people. But beyond the Jummah khutbah, beyond Jummah, what's the masjid doing? Nothing.
This is why
nothing. Why? Because the mindset of the committee is not there for the community. It's
so why don't we get the right people into the committee then? Yeah,
that's why it comes back to what we said first. The parents should be more
active members. Active Muslim members need to get involved in masajid, play a responsible role, which is creative, which is what the next generation needs. Yes, there's a need for expansions because, of course, so many Muslim babies are being born.
Active Muslim members, professional members. The engineering is bringing his engineering. The barrister is bringing his knowledge through. The mechanic, the police officer. What are the
NHS, the entire NHS
doctors, GPs.
Yeah.
Like all of these minds are great minds.
Yeah.
And they will give you
they just need
amazing ideas.
That's all they need.
Yeah.
They just need to be put in a group around a table where they can discuss these things and being given the financial and other freedoms within the capacity of the masjid to do what they need. A lot of times people are not getting involved with the masjid. You know why? It's too much red tape. I know a masjid, one of the biggest masjids in Manchester. Generally, what's happening is the response that I have heard from the community. When I say, look, why isn't such activity taking place? There's too much red tape. If you want to do one little event, you have to go to 15 different people. You've got to beg him, you've got to pull his trousers, you've got to pull his nappy, get the job done. And until everyone says yes, by that time, he's run out of steam. He's not interested anymore. Here's somebody that wants to do something, and all he gets is red tape all over the place.
It's got to be natural, not desperate. Abu Sab, you're talking about support. You are right now, like I said, you are a very good example in this. Your master's degree. Now, inshallah, your PhD. Pata nahi kehdiyan manzilan to kinniyan tay karni hai, inshallah, but may Allah Ta'ala make you successful. But how many people, if share this now on the podcast, how many people have helped you to gain that degree? And then the ceremony we had, and those were all professional people. Those were all committee members, committed people, right? We have committees that are not committed. You see how that, I'm not making a joke, but see how that goes in. We have Quba Masjid, okay, and we expressed this, Qibla started many times, mukhlis people genuinely working for the deen of Allah and His Rasul and helping the Imam in a way that an imam has never been helped before. And you mentioned this when you got your time at the end, that we don't see any masajid, we don't see committee members doing that which Quba Masjid did for their beloved imam. Okay. And it's been such a big success.
We're not just here to...
No, Quba are not paying us for this. It's just an example.
Okay, but the point being, masajid should allow these activities to take place. And we went on a tantrum because of the funding you mentioned, finances.
Yeah.
I strictly disagree because finances has never been the problem. Yes, what the masjid need to be doing, and what we've heard these comments being shared many times when renovations and masjid are being done up, that the amount of money that is spent on building the masjid, on the minaret, £45,000 on a chandelier.
North Manchester.
Yeah, millions on a carpet. Yeah, hundreds of thousands on minarets. Yeah, that same amount of money should be invested
like you mentioned just in the car, £5 million on the carpet of a masjid.
Yeah.
No.
Rather than spending that much money on a beautification of the masjid, is okay to a proportion.
No. That's
even if it's done, fine. But the same amount of money should also be invested in development and youth work as well. Yeah, in building a proper madrasa. You'll spend $5 million on building a masjid, but the imam is still going to be paid £12,000. When you pay the imam only £12,000, imam will do a £12,000 job, which is the 5 namazah, go home. You pay him £30,000, he'll do all the youth activities. He knows this is what I'm being paid for. Yeah. This is my pay. This is my job description.
Bilkul.
I have to provide.
The masjid that I mentioned, I was actually answering your question in a subtle way that you've said finance is an issue, but if they can, people can donate to build such a beautiful masjid, then collecting money for activities, which is going to be nowhere near as big as a building. I think that's doable.
Like that masjid in just north of Manchester.
Beautiful masjid.
They spent, one person paid £8 million for the masjid. Okay. And at Fajr Namaz,
Allah Ta'ala accept.
At Fajr Namaz, there's not even one line. At Fajr Namaz, there's not even one line.
But there's a reason for it.
But what is the engagement of the people for?
People will be engaged, but you need the right people with the right training in the right positions. Unless that doesn't take place, what happens is you have one standard Babaji that's going to take on 10 roles in the masjid, and he's making absolute mess of all 10 roles. He's not even qualified to be in a masjid, never mind being in a committing role.
So are you basically saying that there is...
we need the right people with the right skills in the right positions.
Look,
when that takes place...
Those Babe, look, you shouldn't degrade them, okay?
Babajis have done their hard work.
They're mukhlis, they are mukhlis for the...
They are the reason why we have so many masjids open around the country.
You shouldn't degrade them.
Respect to them, but there's a time and place for everything. Why is it that even within work, any organization, you have a retirement, don't you? Have retirement age. This is it. You work to your best. You're done. Let the next generation take over. Here what's happening is you've supported in the building of masjid. Now it's a lifetime non-retirement contract you have with them now. Not until I don't die, I'm not retiring.
Right. Even after Maut.
I don't know.
You know, I'd love to see that contract.
Honestly, that happens. That's what happens. Now this Babaji is not willing to let go of his position until he's actually picked up and buried away. That's what happens. And because of such individuals, no, you guys are being laughed, man. I'm being serious.
The Peer Sahib, right? From Birmingham. The Peer Sahib from Birmingham, right? And his father died, who was the main Peer Sahib. He's Gadi Nasheed now. And he goes, Qibla Wali Sahib died. And you know what? I'm still in contact with him till this day. He's died like 5 years ago, but I'm still in contact with him today. What does that mean? That does he still give orders from his grave?
No. Probably such people, jokes to aside, but such people in the community definitely need to give way for the next generation. We respect the elders, of course. They've put the investment, the infrastructure into the masjid. Masjids are now available, but now it really does need to be passed on to the next generation. If you look at the other side, who we consider to be non-Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they're so active in the things that they're doing because they have the right people with the right skills in the right positions, and they deliver.
What you're saying is correct, but you need to understand, not you, okay, but when someone, this Imam Ghazali has mentioned this in his Ihya, that when someone is given a position, maqam, the mind corrupts. Damag jada na that gurur, that takabbur, arrogance comes inside to a person.
We mentioned,
regardless if that person is youth, he's young, or he's a Buddha, right? As soon as that maqam comes, okay, this takabbur inside a person comes. Okay, he's my employee, this Imam, he's my employee. I'm paying him when he's not. The community's paying. Okay. And then there becomes a backlash. The Imam doesn't get along with these new young committee.
They do. I think they do. The young, at least the young Imams will. If you've got an old timer Imam Sahib, like you mentioned, those are because they don't speak the language or they're foreigners, they're gonna have a tough time. But I think if it's a young Imam that's in and around your community, he should be supported by the committee members and by the masjid for him to allow for him to flourish.
Well, I'm saying that these new young committee members that want to come in, their tarbiyah should be done. That you're doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There shouldn't be any of this takabbur inside.
No,
all of this lies on sincerity.
I agree with Hafiz Sahib there.
There is an element, of course, there is an element of sincerity.
When you have that clash between the Imam and the committee, and we've seen that many times, the Imam's mind corrupts, bachara. He's thinking, this person has this against me, they're trying to get me out. Shaitan takes over then at that point. Yeah. And the committee members are thinking the same. Why should we do this and whatnot? So that initial,
and they're young, both are young.
They're young, so the garam as well.
Does corrupt.
I don't know if any example of such that comes to my mind straight away, but probably does happen. But either way, masajid should allow the Imams to flourish. He should have that support. And I also believe, like in every organization, you have a HR department.
Yeah.
Masajid should have,
apart from this department,
masajid should have an HR department who regulates good practice and bad practice of a masjid.
Definitely.
This is what a committee is supposed to be doing. They should have such. This is why I keep
masajid
saying.
should have policies made.
Masajid should have policy made. I'm going to push this as much as I can. Right? 2 minutes or camera to ishare mari ja rahe hain. But I'm going to mention this is the more professionalism we put into this, the better it's going to be.
Yeah. Rather than keeping a traditional just panj namaz and that's it, the more professional approach we give to the masajid, the more they will deliver as well.
We mentioned Hazrat Umar Farooq radiyallahu anhu a few weeks ago on the.
I'm gonna be a bit critical there. The more professional you make it, okay, there is a downfall because then people use their position. Okay, for example, my job is from 9 to 3. That's it. मैं एक second भी आगे थे नहीं रहना.
Overtime नहीं करना.
This is the downfall of being too professional in the masjid. Because then, जरा मुखलिस होना सी, that's gone then.
What I'm saying, professional to the point that the work is done, not beyond that.
Yeah. Mukhlis means whatever you do it full-heartedly for the masjid and Allah alone. Yeah. That's what ikhlas is.
Not for personal gain.
Ikhlas does not mean you have to spend 3 hours extra every day. Because that's not ikhlas.
There's a masjid in Manchester where they've done this, okay, hourly basis. You're working this hour, you're working this hour.
That's for the imam. For the imam, but the committee members, they're not contracted to anything like that. Their responsibility is to come in on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, whatever role they play, but be able to facilitate the good, easy running of the masjid in the best practice possible. In the best way possible.
Oh, Latifa, the Jumete Imam Sahib is doing collection.
Yeah.
Take banda sare de samne utha, Imam Sahib, £20 meri tarfo mera naam na leo. Jumete namaz. So what you're saying is, Sahib, that mukhlisana approach, karna hai te Allah waste, right?
Yeah,
we have Nike, just do it. Yeah. Just do it for Allah. Yeah. Just do it for the sake of Allah. Yeah. And you will flourish. The Imam will flourish. The committee will flourish. Again, you're going to say we're not mentioning just one masjid, but I'm talking example. Hafiz Umar here. Don't take it. But we have the examples in front of us.
Yeah.
And the Imam has flourished and the committee are doing really well.
In and around the country that is happening. That I do not buy into the argument whatsoever that our Imam is not connected with the community. Your Imam also has WhatsApp. He has Facebook. Your Imam knows how to use YouTube. Your Imam is part and parcel of your community, isn't it? Yeah, quote unquote, he's there. Yeah, he's not from a different generation. He's Mawjood.
Yeah.
And majority of Imams up and down the country are now speaking English.
Yeah.
They just need that support from the community, that respect, and that freedom to do whatever he can with this best knowledge he has. And wherever he lacks in any department, whether it be delivery of his message, whether it be engagement with the community, whether it be public speaking, whether it be community engagement or even engaging with the children and people of all ages, he should be given that support. Another part of an Imam's role is counselling.
Yeah.
You know, he gets masail of talaq, nikah, family breakdowns, children not listening, children running away from homes. If it's a youth, it's gambling, it's sex, rock and roll, whatever it's going to be. All of these things, if your Imam doesn't have that training, then these working professionals that are part of the committee should facilitate their Imam to go into such courses.
Courses, definitely.
Yeah. If Imam sat at home from Fajr till Zuhr doing nothing but snoring away, then get Imam Sahib up and say, look, Imam Sahib, look, this is the need of the community. Can you go on this awareness course on such a thing? Send Imam Sahib away, pay for his travel, pay for his that course. If you tell Imam Sahib, there's a counselling course, you've got to pay £100 per hour for that one.
What I would suggest,
and it's a 5-hour course. Go ahead. Imam Sahib is going to be like on your bikes.
What I would suggest
the
viewers that, for example, your Jummah khutbah, like you were saying, is the key thing. Now what happens is, you would know that the Jummah khutbah is prepared by who? The Imam. The topic is chosen by who? The Imam. The community should tell the Imam that we want you to speak upon this. Every masjid should have a box outside the masjid.
By the way,
every masjid, let me finish up.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Right.
Well, no,
every masjid should have a box or
suggestion
a board,
box.
a suggestion or a board, a whiteboard, where they put the topics on there. The Imams should talk upon this topic. This is how the Namazis will get involved with the Imam Sahib. Okay, on Jummah, we're going to talk about this. And the Imam should announce it as well.
Yeah.
Okay, next Jummah, this is the topic.
So this is why we said, if you have that active working group, each masjid should have a working group where those people will give those suggestions. The Imam Sahib, these are the, let's say, social issues within our community. Yeah. Can you please address them on a Jummah? And Imam Sahib will do so.
Yeah.
And remember, Imam Sahib does not bite.
See, look, the people are not going to come forward and give their suggestions until you open the door for them. Because people are not confident. Once the Imam tells them, here's what we have set up. From next week, there's a suggestion box, there's a topic box, and you're going to put your ideas and your opinions and what you want the Imam to speak about in there. Yeah. And definitely, I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
I really do.
You know, I remember a few years ago...
The Jummah that I did today, autism, okay? I'll tell the viewers, by Adnan here, he's the one that told me to do it. That, do a Jummah khutbah on autism. I did it today, and people were coming up to me, giving me suggestions, okay, that a autistic child, how to help them with their therapy.
They give you their input. See? Fair enough. But I think all these things, if incorporated, and all of this has to be done with khulus.
Yeah,
definitely.
If the committee members are not mukhlis, they're fighting one another for their positions, they'll never allow the community work to be done because they're too busy fighting themselves. Their positions, who's going to become the chairman in the next, run of the chairmanship.
Yeah.
I mean, in the next 3 years, who's going to be taking the dominant position in the committee? If that's all they're going to be concerned about, forget any community work being done, any community engagement or youth engagement whatsoever. Has to be done upon ikhlas. Similarly, Imam Sahib, his role. Yes, Imam Sahib gets a wage. It's facilitated and funded by the community. His role is to do justice with his income.
Yeah.
Which is not just to sit at home between Fajr and Dhuhr. Yeah. And from Dhuhr till 4 p.m. Generally, what we see is Imams, they lead the Fajr Salah and that's it. They're nowhere to be seen. Then they'll only turn up in the masjid at 4 o'clock when it's time for teaching the kids. And he's there from 4 till about 9ish, let's suppose. Those 5 hours he's there. Beyond that, what's Imam Sahib doing? And I raise this awareness, let's suppose, with all the people that are listening. Ask your local Imams and go to your community member and ask him, what's the Imam Sahib doing? If he's getting a full-time wage, and if it's... First, you have to know whether it's a full-time wage or not. Majority of Imams are on part-time wages. And that's why their performance is part-time.
Yeah.
So don't blame the Imam Sahib. The Imam Sahib, you're not doing enough. Imam Sahib should respond to you straight away saying, look, give me full wage, I'll do a full-time job. You pay me part-time, I'll do a part-time job. You're only paying him for the 4 namazah, he'll do the 4 namazah, he'll go home.
Look, there's one more part to that, what you're saying there, is the funding of the masjid needs to be good as well for the committee to pay the Imam Sahib. Now, if the Imam, if the funding of the masjid is only at Jummah.
Why can't the volunteers, the good, professional and expert volunteers, we have some in our masjid as well, as well as committee members, why don't they take on, again, like Hafsab mentioned, we have raised this awareness, and if you can speak to your local Imams and committee members, if the Imam has taken upon, let's say, football, and someone from the committee or someone from the volunteer group, they take upon a topic or an activity on a workshop themselves, which lifts that burden off the Imam, and it's not just the Imam having to do the football, the pool, the snooker, the table tennis, everything.
Fair
Everyone's taking a part, and if a person's comfortable in that, just the way you got me on board for the football coaching, and the way you have, I know some masajid have the elderly uncles get together for their tea and jasha and whatnot. And the Imam doesn't organise that. It's someone from the volunteer group.
Yeah.
And that can be, I think that's an idea as well. We're putting too much on the Imam.
We have this at Kuba, on Jummah, they sell biryani and they sell chawal on Jummah. And they started like 5 weeks ago. Now what happens is on Jummah, the first Jummah, the second Jummah, they don't get anything. The first Jummah, the chawals are gone, finished.
All sold out.
Sold out.
Yeah, and all of that money comes into the masjid again, doesn't it? It's supporting the masjid.
And like I said, the masjid should have a shop as well, where they're selling Islamic stuff, jubbas.
So jithe ek handi banai do, bana lo. For 2 Jummahs. You're thinking mooli wale parathe every Friday. I know Afsab's like but exactly, but Afsab, eh te koi gal nahi, matlab jithe ek handi banai te do bana lo for the first Jummah.
No, they're making one handi.
Or make a smaller portion in the boxes, as we were discussing today.
No,
but it's just what we're trying to get to is...
Look, if Imam Sahib is going to be paid a part-time wage, he'll do a part-time role. If you give him a proper wage, he'll do a full-time job as well. Yeah, he'll actually do beyond. Yeah, a lot of times Imams do want to, but they're not being facilitated. And that's one of the problems.
They're not being facilitated, the confidence is not there, and that relationship...
The Imam and the committee should be creative in getting funding for the masjid. Majority of the time what's happening, Imam Sahib does elan ji aapke samne wo khadimin masjid aa rahe hain, ab dil khol ke masjid ka taawun farmaye. That's what's happening. Okay, dil khol ke, yeah, that's what's happening. Okay, that's, and the committee get happy upon this ki subhanallah ji Imam Sahib done elan today ki ji masjid de naal khidmat karo. But that's not being creative.
Look, we know masjids. Look, funding has never been the issue. I am not ready to accept that there's lack of funding. Not in the Muslim community, at least now. Look, we know masjids that have millions upon millions in their accounts. Yeah, millions upon millions in the masjid accounts. But when it comes to Imam Sahib's wage, they're going to give him bare minimum. They're going to rinse him.
It's half as a bag and happy, that's all it is.
Achha, mashallah.
They're going to rinse Imam Sahib, they're going to use and abuse him. And that's what generally happens. And this is why the general cult is Imam Sahib's not interested. Yeah? But that should not be the case. And we reach out to the committee members, to the masajid, to the Imams, to the active members, the professionals. If we as a community genuinely are concerned for the generations to come, then we have to get active now. Otherwise, forget about it. And then all we're doing is doing a temporary role, sufficient to fill my grave with a bit of noor, and that's it. Forget about my kids and their kids. Look,
I'll tell you, I've been in Kuba for almost 3-4 years now. Okay?
5 years.
5 years now. If we don't get these upcoming children into the masjid, okay, these babi are going to go, and who's going to come into the masajid then?
There's going to be a big void.
Yeah.
In between.
A big gap. There's a big gap between the upcoming children and the babi now. The babi are running the show. When they're gone, who's going to run the masajid?
Because these working professionals have never got involved.
Yeah.
Big problem.
Like I said,
we have to, as a
like
community.
I said in the beginning, we, the masajid, the imam, the committee, the volunteers, we should make a 5-year plan. where do we want to be in 5 years?
What about 60 years?
Chalo.
After that, पंजवें साल आके वही गाल उन्हें जो थे खानी मैं तो बना लो पंजवें साल जाके the next 5 years.
चलो. 7वें साल सोच लांगे. चलो. But these are general problems.
But we have in our local community as well. Okay. Yeah. I think we're running out of time as well.
No, fine.
We have lost great imams. Okay.
In the past years, subhanAllah.
That were amazing speakers. Great Nath Khans, beautiful voices. They were very humble, softly spoken. I mean, they ticked all the boxes. They had everything. But because of the lack of commitment from the committee members, due to the mistreatment and no support from the committee, from the community, the committee zulm kari ja rahe on the imam. The community jari hai or biryani kha ke going home. They're not speaking up, and that imam is forced not just to leave that masjid, but to leave the city. And this has happened.
That has happened.
And we are creating that awareness so that it doesn't happen. That homegrown, grassroots, local imam has become such an expert in what he does, and he's lost, and the community have lost him. They've lost a gem, and he's gone to a different community because of
the community. The community around the masjid should have this thought: okay, the masjid is a hub. ਅਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਮਤਲਬ ਕਿ we're going to enjoy our time that we're in the masjid.
It's your
like
home.
Hadith Pak say that al-mu'minu fil masjid kasamki fil ma. That the mu'min in the masjid is like the fish in the water. Okay? So the community, when they go to the masjid, they should enjoy that time in the masjid. And that's only going to happen if there are activities in the masjid.
Okay? Listen, remember, the success of the masjid is your success.
Bilkul.
And the success of your generations. The failure of a masjid is the failure of yourself and your generations to come. You're only failing yourself by not getting involved with the masjid and allowing the masjid to run in the way it is. Many times we see people when you sat on khatam and stuff, they'll be criticizing the masjid and the imam sahab. Masjid ne karta hai, nahi hoya, oh nahi hoya, ho gaya, imam sahab ne karta, oh karta. But how many times have they actually gone on and tried to do something about it? They're easy to sit back and criticize. This happened, point fingers everywhere. But when it comes to doing something about it, no one's there to be seen. So if you conclude on this point, it's been well over an hour now, that we have to become serious. Take the masajid seriously. It's where we want our community and our kids to be growing up in. Our kids are no longer seeing the masajid. You'll see them in casinos. You'll see them at cinemas. You'll see them outside arcades, in parks, but you won't see them in the masjids. The reason is because the parents are not seeing there. When they've never seen their parent go to the masjid, that child is never going to the masjid.
We were at a meeting 2 months ago, and the guy made a very good point. Because we always talk about what's happening in Kashmir, what's happening in Burma, what's happening in Israel. What is it? Human cleansing. Because they're killing Muslims.
Ethnic cleansing,
yeah. Now what's happening is that your name as a Muslim in this country, they're trying to get rid of that. Meaning, you as a Muslim, walking around as a Muslim. For example, you go to work, you using the name Muhammad. People don't like it. They call you Mo. Why? Your name is Razak, Raz. Your name is Shahid. Ali, they don't use the actual name. They take the Maqsood, Mak. Okay? Why are we so scared of using our own name in the workplace? This is a thinking point. It's because we're not close with the masjid, we're not close with our deen. If we can be close with our deen, with the masjid, with the imam, then wherever we go, we will not be ashamed of our name or of our culture.
If you go back to, I think last thing we finish on this one, the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If the first project that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam took upon himself when he migrated to Medina Munawwara was the building of the masjid. The first project he worked on, before any battle, before anything took place, the first project he worked on was building a masjid, because the masjid was that hub of the community. Anyone with any problems of any level, at any age, of any background, any solutions you want, you come to the masjid. Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam was that a communicator. He was an advisor. He was a Nabi. He was an Imam, wasn't he? He spoke with the Sahaba Kiram. He would consult them. He was a Muallim. He's a teacher. He was You know, like we have like that central role an imam plays in a masjid. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was an imam. Yeah, his active advisory board was who? Abu Bakr, Umar, Usman, wa Ali radiyallahu anhum. It was Sahaba Kiram.
The greatest committee ever.
Yeah, the greatest committee with the greatest imam.
These Ya Rasulullah, we leave you, and then we feel that we want to come back to you. How did the Prophet ﷺ build that?
Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam facilitated for all the members of the community because he had that active group, active members around him that supported him. He had that support and that love. If we have that same love with the imam and that same khulus that they had, you'll see that the masjid will start to flourish. The masjid was used for wrestling. Masjid was being used for archery. Masjid was being used for meetings. Where it came to voluntary work, relief work, social gatherings, all of this was happening in Masjid Nabawi in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Subhanallah.
We need to convert our masajid into the masjid of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam.
Subhanallah.
Yeah. If we achieve that, there will be no reason for any member of the community to stay away from the masjid.
The Ashab Sufa stayed in the masjid.
Yeah, they stayed in the masjid. Now that's what I mentioned as relief work. Yeah. As feeding the poor, food banks, or whatever you want to call it, in all those different manners. These are new names, food banks and stuff. Everything was happening at the time of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sahaba Kiram would come into the masjid and they would hang their dates on the walls of the masjid. Yeah, I mean bunches of grapes on the walls of the masjid. That was a food bank, because Ashab Sufa that lived on site, on campus with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would eat from those dates. Sahaba Kiram would it's everything that we see in masajid, in the active masjids today, is taken directly from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from the seerah. That's what
we hear this name a lot, Abu Huraira. Okay, the Sahabi who stayed with the Prophet ﷺ only for 3-4 years, but he narrated the most hadith, right? Why? Because he was from the Ashab Sufa. He was from those people, and he became one of the great Sahabis.
That's another subject altogether, as in the education system of masajid.
Yeah.
Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's masjid was not only a masjid, it was a madrasa as well.
Subhanallah.
It had an entire syllabus that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was delivering.
Subhanallah.
Yet now it's all about syllabuses and have this syllabus, that syllabus. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was also delivering a syllabus, and that's it differs subject altogether in terms of masajid and education.
I think what Hafizah was touching upon there, and I like that point, the final bit you mentioned, Hadith Abu Hurairah and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the close proximity with the Imam. So as you mentioned, the youth, the youngsters, having that attachment with the Imam.
His Abu Hurairah, his attachment with the Prophet ﷺ was so much. I read a hadith. He ﷺ said, "Oh Abu Hurairah, I want at times you to stay away from me, so that you build your love for me." This is how much he was attached with the Prophet ﷺ. How much love does the Imam today get that from his community?
So again, that awareness we're raising, that if you get back into touch with your committee, with your Imam, and believe me, that Imam, I say with husnizan, is a humble person. He's working for the deen, he's working for Allah and his Rasul. You come one step to him and he will come running to you, because he's been deprived from that attention and from that appreciation from people. Appreciate him the slightest, and believe me, he will be ready to do everything for the community. That's my husnizan.
Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.